Hey, I'm Fred.
And I'm Ed.
And this is Creator Generation.
Create a generation of hype.
Creator Generation features top YouTube creators and video experts sharing their tips, insights, and stories from working on the world's biggest video platform.
All right, Fred, what is happening this week?
This week we are chatting with Madison Lloyd, who is one of the creators from the group SketchShe.
I remember finding out at the airport in Sydney. Oh, and by the way, like Ellen wants you girls on the show. I was like, what? Like Ellen Degeneres? Like Ellen?
What is Sketchy?
So SketchShe are a trio of female comedians who mainly do musical comedy and are famous for their first video, Mime Through Time, which I think got like 150 million views. But the reason this story is so interesting...
That's a very big number, Fred.
It is. It is a very big number. But the reason this story is interesting is that even though that happened like 4 years ago, they are still going strong today.
Yeah, that's right, they are. And so we had a chat to Madison about what it's like to have such a massive viral hit so early on in your career, but also about being judged on your looks and how self-belief and resilience can really make all the difference as a creator.
Indeed. Yep. Let us get into it.
Let's get into it.
Mads, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Like we do with most creators, we like to sort of know, like, how did it all start for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I met Shae and Lana, the other sketchies, about nearly even 5 years ago now. And when we first met, we actually started just doing some sketch things like on our weekends and decided to make a pilot for like a half-hour traditional sketch show for TV. And we shopped that around, and Shae even went on a trip to the US and tried to like get in rooms over there, and basically no one was having a bar of us because we were no one. And we had some advice from some friends in the industry that we should get online and that we should start with a YouTube channel and try and grow an audience, and then maybe, you know, TV would pay attention. So we did that, and, you know, this is after about a year of filming things and putting together our pilot. So, you know, we were doing things for about a year before we even went online. And then we started kind of uploading our sketches individually to our YouTube channel and trying to grow an audience using Facebook. Instagram wasn't even a thing at the time, showing my age. And then we were doing that for around, I'd say 4 or 5 months, and then started doing some videos in the car, which are the 2 viral videos that most people have seen of ours. It wasn't sort of like a one-hit wonder. We did a couple of things in the car initially out of necessity because we were broke and we didn't have any money to hire a camera crew anymore and do like a proper kind of sketch. So we started, using our iPhone and doing things in the car. And we noticed on the first, we actually did 2 videos in the car before Bohemian Rhapsody. So Bohemian Rhapsody was technically our 3rd video in the car. And the first 2, they weren't lip syncing and choreography the way that one was, but, you know, they had elements of what those videos ended up becoming. And we noticed that people were really paying attention to them and engaging with them more than some of our more traditional sketches. So we sort of realized we were onto something and kind of workshopped it, I guess, into what it ended up becoming. And then, you know, those 2 videos went viral, and it just went from 0 to 100 really. And all of a sudden we had all these subscribers and people were like contacting us, and stuff just got real wild. SketchShe sort of grew from there. Cool.
Now, before we talk a little bit more about the, you know, that huge success of the car videos, when the 3 of you came together, did you all just like share a love of comedy? Is that what brought you together? Yeah,
I mean, we all came from slightly different backgrounds. So I met Lana, and we actually just met at like a promo job, side hustle vibe, and we just like clicked instantly, and sort of I was just like, this chick's super cool, and like, let's be friends. Making adult friends, isn't that fun and awkward? And then her and Shae had met maybe a year before that. Shae was producing, working on sets, and had sort of started dabbling in making some of her own short films, and Lana had sort of jumped on board with that. And then when I met the girls, they sort of said, look, we're doing this comedy stuff, like, would you like to kind of get involved? And I was like, yeah, this sounds great. And I don't come from an acting background. I'd done a bit of modelling and the odd, you know, TVC, but I wasn't like traditionally sort of actor trained or even comedy trained. I always really enjoyed comedy, but, you know, with the girls was sort of the first time I kind of got into the space. And yeah, we just kind of had fun and like played around and then sort of like figured out our flow. And we all have slightly, different personalities, but there's something about the combination that people like to watch and that sort of worked.
So I guess given you are in a trio, what is like your creative process for creating content? Like sketch comedy is hard in itself. It's extremely hard on YouTube because, audiences want to see constant content.
Yeah.
And sketch comedy takes a lot of time to think about, and then execution is everything, so it's hard to deliver.
Definitely. And that's something that I think maybe going into it didn't quite realize. We sort of overpromised. We're like, okay, so on YouTube, you've got to do like a video a week, and that's what the subscribers want, and that's what we have to do. And there was a point where we had to make a real conscious decision to pull back on the amount of content because our content quality was slipping. And that is something that we do that, say, other YouTubers don't. Not that they don't, but, if you're a vlogger and you're just doing a to-camera piece in your bedroom, one, it's a lot cheaper. Two, it's a lot easier and it's just a lot quicker to produce and turn around, whereas our stuff takes a lot more scripting and production and, editing. So we had to really kind of pull back on that and be like, okay, this is what we can deliver. And that's a constant battle, I think, depending on what's going on in our lives. We're also not 15-year-olds like in mum and dad's house. So like life gets in the way. Like you got to pay the rent. You got to like do the jobs that are, paying, either whether that be branded deals or things outside of Sketchy. There's life to live as well. In terms of the creative process, it really depends. I think we all have our own strengths. And so it's about playing to those. And, whether it be one of us that comes up with an initial idea and it's like, hey, I've got this idea. And we're like, yeah, great. Like, let's do that. And then they'll kind of script it out. And then we'll all kind of, input and workshop it. And then usually on set, it works better if there's like one person that's kind of directing or in control, whether that out of the three of us. But then a lot of the time we'll have, camera crew or even an external director that will come on board if it's like a bigger sketch, and we can, afford to do that. But we have some great people that we work with that are some like amazing DOPs that have also come from a comedy background, and having that external view is always like really helpful as well on set, because sometimes something that you script out may not work in the moment or in the set or with the assets that you've got to work with.
Great. And like obviously that your videos from the car are, they're very famous and, tens of millions of views, and it's interesting hearing you say that it wasn't just a one-off, it was something you'd actually planned and developed a little bit over time.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it was necessarily planned. I don't think you can ever plan for that. But it was definitely a trend that we noticed with our content that people were actually liking. Like I said, it was sort of half out of like financial necessity and then half out of realizing that people were enjoying this sort of, style. And I think also just the framing of like in the car, there's something about it that people like. And I like to say that we started that.
Yeah. I mean, those videos, I mean, they're very iconic now, and they really blew up worldwide. And before, you saw them everywhere on the news, and and then you ended up on Ellen right after that as well.
Yeah, that was like it was a really crazy couple of months, that's for sure. It's sort of strange when you put something out there into the world and then people actually see it. And for a moment, I know myself, I had a moment of feeling quite exposed and being like, oh my God, like what is this? And it's like, oh no, wait a minute. This is what you wanted. You put it out there on public. And yes, it was quite a surreal kind of moment, I guess, to be like thrust into that sort of, I guess, limelight or like YouTube light.
It is interesting because, I mean, there are a lot of creators who create for a long time and then they'll have some success with one video and that will sort of, begin an upwards trajectory for them.
Yeah.
I guess with yours, that upwards trajectory was quite sharp.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about from the moment of going online, going public to that kind of happening, it was very sharp. Particularly, you know, you hear of YouTube channels that are going for sort of 8 years before they get their upwards kick, and ours happened within sort of, you know, 4 months, which is good and bad, I'd say. Definitely very positive for us in terms of like growing our channel and our brand and being able to transition into doing it as a full-time job. But also, you know, it forced us to kind of quickly discover, I guess, who we are and what we wanted to put out there. So we did a lot of our we've done a lot of our learning in sort of with a large audience, which has been good and bad.
Definition of vulnerability right there.
Yeah, it's like, okay, wow, we've done this thing that everyone loves. Like, okay, what next? As you know, the internet and particularly social media is so kind of all consuming and very instant gratification. You know, so someone watches something and they're like, okay, great. Where's the next thing? You're like, well, that just took us a month to create. Like, give us a second, you know?
And what was the next thing? I mean, after having that such enormous success with those videos, like what came next for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we obviously had, Bohemian Rhapsody was our first viral video, and then after that we were like, okay, we need to keep this momentum going, and that's when we did Mime Through Time, which not lucky, it was very actually like thought out, but did even better, which was amazing. It's good, I think. One thing about having a viral video is that you do have the eyes on you. So you do have a captive audience. And that video went incredible. And then from there it was sort of, I guess, you know, you can't just keep doing the same thing. One, we would go crazy, and two, people, you know, get bored. So it was kind of then, I guess, educating the audience as to like who we were and what we wanted to do, and that we were actually a comedy group, and that we also did sketches and you know, had all these other kind of aspects as well as just lip syncing in the car.
Can I backtrack on Mime Through Time?
Yeah.
Did you feel incredible pressure as the second, like that's the follow-up, that's the second album?
It was like, huge.
Did you, like, what did it feel like, maybe even look at Bohemian Rhapsody and how that went? Like, how did you feel as that blew up so quickly with millions and millions of views? And then what did you think you were going to do next? We were like, well, we better do a good one.
No, obviously when that first one went crazy, it was like a lot of shock and like, oh my God, yay. But also, whoa. And then we were like, okay, so we need, like, obviously people like this. This is working. This format is working. How do we one-up it? How do we make it like bigger and better? And that's when the idea of doing a mashup of all the different songs came up, and then like stepping up the video by adding costume, which we all love. So that was like a lot of fun.
And were you confident? Like you hit upload and go? Were you like, damn, here comes our next?
I think we sort of, it's funny because with something like that, we obviously, you know, did all the choreography, did all the costumes, like, okay, this is good. And then when you're in the car, and it is like a very, you know, it's quite funny. You've got like, we had some lights on, we had the phone set up, we're in there, it's hot, it's sweaty, like it's a very intimate space. And I think when we did a take and we sort of, you know, would do a take of the song, and then we all end up bursting into laughter at the end of it, you know, you're kind of onto something. You know, if we're all like, okay, that felt good, that felt funny. I think we could do it again. I think we all were like hoping and sort of was somewhat confident. Otherwise we wouldn't have uploaded it. But you know, then when it did, it was like exciting, but also a bit of relief, I think. We actually ended up with that. So that Mime Through Time video we filmed over 2 and we actually, you know, kind of went back and looked at all the takes and had a look at the end of the 2 days, and then decided to reshoot a couple of them and add some extra comedic moments, because we didn't want it, like, we wanted it to be better, but we also wanted it to kind of maybe bring a bit more of the comedy through. I think the first one was funny because it was, you know, us all kind of going crazy in a car. But the second one, we really wanted to add like some of those silly moments with like shaving the head with Britney and some more kind of topical things in there, which I'm so glad that we went back and did, because it really did kind of add to the video, and I think really got people sort of watching Sketchy as a comedy group and not just, you know, performers maybe.
Was there an element of making that that second video that you've taken it to the next level so far? That where would you go next? Were you already thinking about that, or were you like?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time we just were more thinking about making it bigger and better than the first one. It's a hard thing, I think, when you're on YouTube and you sort of have a style of content and you're kind of giving your audience a certain thing, and then it's kind of educating them to, you know, love and consume what you've made, but then also being able to diversify, because there's only so many videos in the car, 2 songs that you can do. There's only so many gags. There's only so many costumes. There's only so many dance moves. And so I guess it's sort of, trying to bring them along with you, I guess, on the journey.
You don't feel pigeonholed. You don't feel pigeonholed as the girls in the car.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, definitely, because I think anyone who has kind of gained traction through a viral video is going to feel a little bit pigeonholed by whatever that thing is. Like, we still have people coming up to us now and being like, "Oh, you're the girls from the car. You did this around the world, the singing with the costumes." And I mean, I'm very proud of that video still. So I think I still love it when people come up and say that to us. But you do need to sort of honor it and evolve at the same time.
I mean, there's an aspect there. You guys are probably the best looking people in comedy. Probably as a trio. I can't. I mean, people look at you and they, you know, you are 3 very diverse looking people, but you are obviously very good looking. And some people have actually said, especially in a lot of the comments on your page, they refer to that. Do you ever want to think, hey, just, you know, fuck off, it's about the comedy, or it's about what we're actually trying to
you know,
create?
I think it is a bit of a double-edged sword, I guess you could call it. At the end of the day, this is the way we look. This is what it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh no, we're all so hideous. Like, but I think it's about embracing, you know, being who we are, and then also embracing the fact that, you know, just because you're maybe a pretty girl who likes fashion and wears makeup, you can also be funny. It's about the fact that the two things aren't mutually exclusive. And I think, you know, in the past it was always sort of the funny fat girl or the kind of like harsh, you know, man-hating feminist stand-up comedian, and that's so limiting. And I think I know so many amazing female comedians that are very diverse, and the comedy isn't about, you know, the gender or the way you look. It's about the comedy. But I think you got to utilize whatever you've got, and that's part of our brand, and you know, we embrace it.
Yeah, that's good. And but in terms of the comments, you get quite a variation. You get some people who really love you, can tell they're loyal, loving fans. And then there are people who are just like trolling and there for the wrong reasons.
To be honest, I don't think it matters what kind of content you do or what you look like. You're gonna get trolls. So, sure.
And how do you deal with the trolls?
Just don't read the comments.
What about early on, like when all this amazing knowledge you have of how the world is when you first started?
Oh,
what about then?
Confronting. Horrible. Hated it. Very exposing. Did not deal with it well at the beginning at all. I think like all 3 of us, when our first video went viral, dealt with it quite differently. And I was I felt very like confronted by the whole fact that people were commenting on us and didn't know us. You know, I had a private like Instagram. I was the last one of my friends to get Facebook. Like social media, I was not like up with it and like into it when it first sort of started. And so for me, I like had to wrap my head around the fact that this is a thing, and that's kind of what happened. I do find now though, like it gets to the point though where you just have to laugh at it and accept it as part of the online world. And I know a lot of creators say this, but I do find if you actually do respond to some of the more like hurtful comments, 99% of the time they will write back and be like, I'm so sorry, I'm going through a hard time. And it's really more about them than it is about you. And at the end of the day, if the worst thing someone can say about me is like, oh, your face looks crappy, it's like, well, okay, cool.
So but when
Like
you,
fix your snaggletooth. All right, thank you.
I don't know what a snaggletooth is, but okay.
Like a little snaggly tooth. I don't know. But like if the worst thing that someone can say about you is a superficial comment or you're not funny. Well, yeah, okay. You don't think I am.
So do you, like,
cool. Don't watch.
when you're responding, then do you use that as a, like, if you are responding, or are responding to those comments, like how do you respond?
I think it's always with like giving like a love back. Don't have a few drinks and then decide to go on the comment reply. I did that once. It was interesting.
Was it funny?
I mean, I thought it was. Don't know if anyone else did. I mean, I think I'm like naturally quite a sarcastic person, and I quite enjoy a little bit of a sarcastic reply. But generally, it's just either ignore it or write back, with positive. In a positive way, and it definitely diffuses it quickly. There's no point getting in like a troll war because literally what is the point? You're either going to make them feel worse about themselves or they're going to make you more fired up and angry, and there's just like, who has time for that?
When I'm on the mic.
Anton, I think it is time to take a quick break.
Yep. I reckon people need to hear what else we've been cooking up.
That's right. We also have an app. The app is basically designed to create a global community of creators. So bring together all the creators all over the world to have great conversations, and also give them access to a bunch of extra content to make them even better at what they do.
Definitely. And we've made this thing so it's available both on iPhone through the App Store and for your Android device on Google Play. So jump on, check it out, join the creator generation.
I guess because a lot of people would want to hear this, but what was it like being invited onto the Ellen Show?
So crazy. I mean, we were just like, what? Like, we were going to the States because obviously, a lot of people reached out, a lot of media companies, a lot of management, a lot of agencies, and we went on a trip to the US. And I remember finding out at the airport in Sydney, oh, and by the way, like Ellen wants you girls on the show. I was like, what? Like Ellen Degeneres, like Ellen, or like some weird radio station in like Ohio. Like which Ellen are we talking about?
Ellen in Ohio is big though too.
Oh, she's great. She's great too.
Local radio.
So nothing. Hey Elle, shout out. Yeah, but it was. I think it was funny actually because it was the first interview that the three of us had done together was being on Ellen. And I think in a way it was good because it sort of, we just were so ourselves because we didn't really, I think the magnitude of what was happening because there was so many other huge things happening at the time was not lost on us, but it was just didn't feel real. And it was good, like also, because there were three of us. I think if it had have just been me sitting on the couch by myself, I would have felt so much more nervous. But it was kind of just, it was too surreal to kind of be nervous, and we all kind of had each other. And the thing too is, so we did that, but we also performed on the show. And that was probably the bit that we were the most nervous about because they were like, oh, can you just do the mashup? We're going to have a car. You guys are going to do it in front of the audience. We're like, okay, great. Oh, but wait a minute. Like we edited that video together. We didn't actually do it all in one go. So we kind of were like, okay, I guess we can do it live. Poor Shae nearly fell out the front of the car. I was like, oh my gosh, imagine if she like broke her nose on like international television. But it went well and they loved it.
You say there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, right? Like these videos. What does that mean? Like what happened? So
we were just, all the comments. Yeah. All the like media houses and online publications resharing our video, agencies reaching out to us, management reaching out to us, brands reaching out to us, going to the US. I'd never even been to the US. So even just going there for the first time, I was like, whoa, we're in LA, we're in Hollywood. What is this craziness kind of thing? So I think it was just the whole, all of a sudden this becoming a real work opportunity and transitioning from sort of hobby to, oh wow, this is something that could really sustain us and be like a career.
And did you feel you took like maximum advantage of that?
Oh, I mean, yes and no. We've definitely made some mistakes along the way. If I could go back, there's a few things I would do differently when it comes to sort of, management and different agent people we got involved with. Yeah, definitely have some good learnings from that experience.
Well,
but that's what it is. That's what happens.
Like, how did you know? Like, all these offers are coming in. I'm guessing like people are saying, "Hey, we want you to do stuff with us, or your attention, or we can help you, or something."
Yeah.
How did you guys go from hobbyists having fun to how did you actually deal with that? Like,
yeah,
physically, how
I
did you deal
guess
with that?
we just dealt with it as best we could. There were a few moments there that were like incredibly stressful and like definitely were not funny. But at the same time, we also like made some really amazing choices and some amazing decisions. But we definitely got involved with like at the very beginning, like a horrible manager that took full advantage of us and our situation. And it is funny because I guess we were a little bit older at the time. I wasn't sort of 19. I was like 25. And I wasn't sort of in it to be famous, I guess. So the kind of the glitz and the glam of Hollywood I wasn't like kind of, oh my gosh, I'm so like wrapped up in this. I come from a family that's not creative based at all. So I kind of like had this business kind of thought, I guess, and like my parents were very like business kind of skew, not like, oh my gosh, you're going to be a star. And we still, it happens. It's that cliche story of like the bad management and taking advantage of the artist. And unfortunately it happened to us, but we got out of that situation and we've continued and made something of it. But it is crazy how kind of cliche things can be sometimes.
On that then, say if another creator is listening to this and they have the equivalent thing where all of a sudden things blow up and things are coming at them.
Please call me.
Yeah. Well, what do you do? Like, how do you avoid that pitfall?
I'd say my advice would be that any real opportunity is not going to be gone in the morning. So even though it is a very fast-paced industry and it's definitely a moment that you want to be like in and taking advantage of like the momentum, just like take a moment, take a breath and look into it. You don't have to make a decision. If someone's trying to pressure you to make a decision now, I would question their motives.
Awesome.
A lot of creators we work with talk about the importance of a support network.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you're working in a trio.
Yep.
And you guys seem very close.
Mm-hmm.
What's the importance of that?
I think it's I've never had it any other way. So to me that's normal. But speaking to some of my other friends and female like YouTubers, content creators, comedians, and they've mentioned like, it's so hard to get a gauge on whether like this is good content or not because I don't really have anyone else. Obviously you can like run it by a family and friends, but like someone that really knows the brand and the industry and the content, to have kind of three brains to bounce that off is quite a nice little kind of comfort, I guess, that other creators don't have. And especially when you're working, you're working from home or you're working within like a small kind of like one-man show or three-gal show. It's nice to have people to talk to. It can get quite lonely. So I think that's definitely a benefit of having the three. And then, obviously, friends, family, other people in the industry. I think it's why events, creator events are really great because it is kind of somewhere where you can talk to people about, I'm not going to talk to my mum about like, Mum, I'm just, my like content's not performing, like my CPMs, my thumbnails, like what? She's going to be like, sorry, what are you talking about? She still doesn't quite understand it or anything. But, so it's nice to have other people who understand, the industry, I guess.
So what does Sketchy look like now, though, in terms of the content you create? You say but it obviously started with sketches and ended up blowing up with the car lip sync videos. What does Sketchy do now?
Yeah, I think with the car videos, what we've found is that our audience really love the marriage between music and comedy, and that's something that works really well for us. So whether that be like a lip sync video in the car or like a parody song that we've written, which we've done a few of, and it's so much fun writing a song. And then recording it and like, you know, you feel like a bit of a pop star for a day. So I think that's something that we continue to do. Love doing our sketches. I think for us, it's about creating content that people go, wow, that's relatable, or I do that, and maybe showing, you know, sometimes like a less glamorous side to life, or kind of particularly with social media. I grew up in a world that didn't have a Facebook or didn't have Instagram, and I think it's, you know, crazy when I look now at young kids that are growing up in a school setting with these social platforms, and it's just so much pressure. So that's something I think we really like to, I guess, expose in a way through humor, is that, you know, what you see isn't real life. So that's a theme that we try to carry through a lot of our stuff. And I think it's also, I mean, Shae's now living in LA, so the look of our content has changed just purely from a geographical perspective. There's a lot more content that is either scenes with the three of us where it's all like kind of chopped and cut up together, or there's content that just has Lana and I filming things here in Australia, or Shae over in the US filming things by herself, or with her boyfriend Russ, or, you know, with other amazing actors that she's, you know, has in her circle over there.
How's that dynamic work now that you're no longer in the same country? How does that collaboration work?
I
right?
mean, it works, and like that was, you know, she really wanted to move over there, and that's kind of where she wants to be, and like that doesn't sort of, in a way, it's good for our brand because it's more diversity. It's like access to like awesome stuff in the US. We do work in the US, so we just basically, you know, if we're ever there or she's in Australia, we just make sure we film content and sort of spread it out.
So when I ask also what does Sketchy do, like what else do you do as Sketchy? Like, are there other things other than YouTube videos?
I mean, a lot of what we do is content. So whether that be on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, that's sort of king for us. We obviously work with brands, and that's like a source of revenue for us. And then we all individually do things outside of Sketchy, but you know, that also complement it as well.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you guys are amazingly successful and just skyrocketed very, very quickly. But have there been any experiences where it hasn't been all just unicorns and rainbows? Like, because, you know, as an outsider looking in, as a you know, aspiring creator might look and go, well, God damn, I hate this girl because they just did this thing and they went ballistic.
Those bitches.
Yeah, well, maybe. And probably, right? But like, what's the reality of the journey? Like, you know, are there any stories that particularly you'd be happy to share?
I think
things like, not going to plan
with every kind of person or profile or business or creator you see online. Like, just remember, like, you are seeing the final product. You're seeing the finished product and you're seeing the highlight reel. So you know, you're not seeing the kind of the arguments over creative control. You're not seeing the back and forth about you know, contracts. You're not seeing the dodgy managers and the people who are trying to take you for a ride, or you're not seeing all of that stuff. So it's definitely not all fun and games. And I think people, I know people that I've spoken to don't really realize how much of the business side of things there is to deal with as well, like the admin. You know, it's not all just being on set and dressing up in funny costumes and having fun, although that is part of it and that's awesome. It's, you know, got to go and do my tax and, you know, got to like pay, you know, your invoices and read through contracts and do legal and think about like the business plan. So there's all that side of things as well that I think sometimes people think, oh, they don't have to do that. Like, no, we do. And I think anyone who's running a small business, regardless of the sort of industry, like, my hat is off to you, because it's all consuming and it can be quite stressful because you are in control of your own sort of career and your own like financial security as well, which can be tough sometimes. Like, there's definitely been moments over the last 3 years where I've gone, oh my gosh, like, I should just go and get a real job because it'll just be that much, I can leave work at work. But yeah, I wouldn't change it. I definitely like my situation.
When you're at those moments, what keeps you going, or what has kept you going?
I think, each other, and also just trying to remember that like you are in a pretty awesome situation. Like, I do make my own hours. I do have control over my own career. Like, it's sort of, the things that are the negatives are also the positives. And so I think it's like just always kind of like coming back to and being like, okay, like I'm all right. This is pretty good. Look at all these awesome things we get to do. Like there's opportunities that I've had through SketchShe that I would have never had before and that lots of people don't get. Like we were on Ellen, we were on Good Morning America. Like we've gone on amazing overseas trips and, been in rooms with people that, I would have otherwise not had, and experiences that I would have otherwise, money can't buy kind of experiences. So I think you have to always remember those.
I mean, we've seen a lot of creators that have had like huge viral success, and then it just falls off afterwards and nothing ever happens with that. With you guys, and this was a couple of years, 3 or 4 years ago now this happened, you guys have stayed there. You seem to have still built an audience, and, we still see you on TV and we see you on YouTube and you're still doing a lot of stuff. So obviously you have taken advantage of that. Do you feel you're on the right trajectory now, or where are you guys going now?
I do. I think with anything, there's always going to be an evolution. And, we have been doing it for sort of nearly 5 years now. And with that, obviously, we're going to kind of evolve and change. And it's about, I think, like what we're kind of doing at the moment is figuring out how we can continue obviously doing our sketches and doing SketchShe, and then also exploring some of the opportunities that we have as individuals and, across maybe some other, parts of the industry. The best thing about YouTube and about what we've done is that we've had this opportunity to do all of the facets of the, creation when it comes to scripting, to performing, editing, kind of learning that social media back end, pitching, working with advertising companies, doing things on stage, live, interviewing, presenting. So it's been awesome to be able to try everything out. And now just figuring out where we want to take it.
And that's it. You've got quite a rounded mix of different things you do.
Yes.
And a lot of creators on YouTube feel that, I'm only going to be successful on YouTube, whereas that's not always the case. I mean, and there are plenty of opportunities that you can leverage off the platform.
Definitely. And I think too, with the way that the industry is changing now, I mean, TV used to be like God. And now it's like, no, online is where it's at. And it's kind of ironic that we started out trying to make a TV show and then ended up finding our success online. And then it came full circle. Last year we did a show called The Slot, ended up on Foxtel. And it was kind of ironic that all of a sudden we've gone from, begging, knocking down doors to try and get on TV to like them coming to us and us kind of being like, okay, yeah, that's like awesome opportunity. But we actually love our online stuff and the control that you get when you're making your own content.
How did you find working on TV compared to working on YouTube?
We actually had a really amazing experience. So the show was created by Princess Pictures, and the whole concept of the show was getting Australian YouTubers and having them come and do sort of basically what they do online and turning it into sort of like a half-hour sketch show. But they were awesome because they were obviously very aware of how we worked, and we were given a lot of creative freedom and a lot of, control over how they knew we knew our content and our audience, and they really like respected that. And so we had a really, really good experience. And
given that's now in the mix, are you still happy to work across both TV and digital or
always. I think the more channels you can be working across, the better. Particularly now, there's no such thing as everyone, particularly in media and the creative world. I think more and more people are expecting you to be able to do multiple things, and the variety is also exciting. I don't want to do the same thing every day. It's awesome. So I think, you're never going to say no to a good opportunity no matter what platform that be on.
So I mean, you've like you have many parts to, I guess, your career now in media. Would you say that YouTube though forms the basis of it?
Yeah, I'd say that YouTube, for me, that created my opportunity. Like now that's created my business and now what I'm known for, I guess you could say, in the industry, and also given me a platform to try different things and try different aspects and different roles within the media industry and figure out what I like. I mean, that's such a privilege that a lot of people don't get. Like, oh, I might just try this thing today, or I'll try my hand at, costuming or editing, or like I'm going to write this and just see how it goes. Like a lot of people don't have that flexibility in their job and in their role. So I think that's something that you can't really underestimate.
So that's we like to end each episode with our guest creators just giving their top 3 tips.
Oh, okay.
For other creators based off your experience. So what are your top 3 tips?
Okay, in terms of, let me think. Okay, I'm going to do sort of more broad ones, not necessarily like YouTube specific. And my tips would definitely be, if it's something that you want to be doing as a job, like full time, I'd say whenever you can, bringing on a good team. So whether that be a good manager, a good agent, a good editor, if you can't do it yourself, don't be afraid to sort of reach out and have like get people, in your corner, because I think that is huge, particularly if you're looking at management. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Like, they need you. I think a lot of the times, you've got agents and management and things that think they're the ones, like they're not the ones with the talent. You are. Like, you're the ones who are creating the content. So don't be afraid to like ask for what you want and set some goals, set some like KPIs for the people who are, profiting off what you're creating. So that'd be my first one. Secondly, it'd be to get a really good understanding about what you stand for and what your content is. I think that was something that we struggled with initially because we went viral and we kind of were thrown into the spotlight really quickly. And it would have almost been like a little bit nice to have a little bit more time to kind of like workshop, what the brand is and the brand message and the values and the culture and all that kind of thing. So don't kind of underestimate the power of like sitting back and having a think about that rather than just like going crazy. And my third tip would be just to do it. I think a lot of people hold back because they're worried that it's not perfect. And I know I struggle with this massively because I'm a perfectionist. But sometimes, finished is, better than perfect. So just get out there and do it and start putting things out there and seeing what people engage with, because that's a really great resource, is like, your audience. They're going to tell you what works, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who decide.
That's awesome advice. Mads, I also want to hit you up for 3 top tips for creators that suddenly just go stratospheric.
Oh, yeah.
They find themselves one day with a mega hit video that's gone ballistic. What are your top tips for a creator to handle that?
Mine would be, be timely, but don't make any big decisions quickly. Take your time to, if it's a big, if you're getting a big opportunity come your way, like I said, it's still going to be there in the morning. So just take a moment, take a breath, really think about it, and then proceed. The second one. This is funny because I feel like it's the advice that people give like brides on their wedding day, but also just take like enjoy it, because it's like, it is this like amazing, cool thing that's happening. And, if you find yourself on Ellen's couch, take a minute to be like, I'm on Ellen's couch. How cool. And like enjoy the kind of the process, I guess. And the third one, try to kind of stay true to what you originally set out to do. There's nothing wrong with like evolving and taking advantage of the moment. But, I think the more true to yourself you can stay when things go wild, like the better. And I think someone who's done that really well is like Celeste Barber. So she stayed really true to her, her kind of like style and her aesthetic, and has now worked with like amazing, she's now got the whole celebrity fashion industry like on board, and I feel like she's done really well not to kind of compromise.
Well, that is awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. And for those listening out there, it is really rare you see creators who have such meteoric success so early and then are able to capitalize on that and build something viable. Most just have it and then they explode. So that's testament to how good you guys are as a group and as individually as creators. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
We hope to see a lot more of it coming up. And thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
See ya.
Mad, so much fun, so interesting.
She's super awesome and very, very, very funny.
Indeed. Let us know if you have any questions for Matt or for us through the socials, Insta or Twitter. If you'd like, you can also jump on the Creator Generation app. We actually encourage it.
Don't worry about the socials. Go straight to the app. Send us stuff there. That's the place to be.
It is the place to be. We will see you next week.
Definitely. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Creative generation on the mic.